I'm going to walk you through this problem. I'm just doing a quick overview of the problem. You can certainly follow the instructions. Now, the thing to remember is the numbers that I'm using are different from your file, so you will get different answers than I have, but I want to show you how to do the project from beginning to end. And I am doing this live, so we may have a few starts and stops, but don't worry, we will get there. So the first thing you do is you open the file in Excel, and that's what I have on my screen. Your file will have different numbers than mine. So looking at the requirements, in requirement 1, we're told to wrap the text in the headings to fit the column cells. So I'm going to select row 1, and I'm going to right click. I'm going to format cells, and I'm going to click on alignment, wrap text, and click OK. Now there could be multiple ways to do the same thing. I'm just going to show you one way. Now it says B says make the column headings bold. So while that's still selected, I'm just going to hit bold up there. I could have right clicked. And then C says widen column A to be the width of the longest date in that column. So what I'm going to do is select column A and see where my cursor turns into a double-headed arrow. I'm just going to double click there and it widens. Okay, now it also tells us requirement D, 1D, widen column B to be the width of the longest description. So I'm just going to do that double-headed arrow there, double click, and you see it widens. Now, it doesn't tell us in the instructions, but I'm going to clean up a couple other columns. Column I here, I'm just going to drag it to make it a little bit wider to make the words fit. There we go. And then L is the last one. Okay. So there we go. So now we're in E. Use the sum function to total column C through L in row 82. So I'm going to scroll down to row 82 and I'm going to use the sum function. So I'm going to click on the function button and I'm going to look for sum. I would type here sum, hit go. Okay, and there's sum, so I'm going to click OK. Okay, now it tells me sum what? Well, I'm going to sum C2 through C81. That's exactly what I want to sum. So I click OK. So I've got my first sum there. Now I'm going to drag it. See the fill handle in the lower corner? I'm just going to drag that across and fill in the sums all the way across. So I've got requirement E done. Again, there's multiple ways to do that, but you certainly don't want to be saying plus C2 plus C3 plus C4. That's not the way to do it. You have to use the sum function. Now, requirement F says to put a single underline above and a double underline below the sums. So we're just going to come up here to this border icon, do the drop down button, find the top and double bottom border and click there. And there I've got requirement 1 done. Now, requirement 2 says to list each account up here as asset, liability, equity, and revenue. So when we go there, cash is an asset, long-term loan payable is a liability, common stock, retained earnings, and dividends are all equity accounts. Service revenue is a revenue account, and then the rest of these, advertising expense, automobile expense, interest expense, and miscellaneous expense are all expense accounts. So that's what we would do for 2. Now, requirement 3 uses those answers, and we have to calculate some totals. So down here at the bottom, it says A, requirement 3A, total assets as of January 31st, 2020, put formula in cell C84. Okay, so C84, total assets. Now, I can't remember what columns are what, so I'm going to show you a little trick. This is not in the instructions, but I want to be able to see those column headings, right? So if I click right here, okay, see where I am? I'm going to do View. I'm going to click on Freeze Panes, and I'm going to freeze panes. And what that does is it allows me to scroll down and see how See how my column headings aren't leaving the screen? That just makes it a little easier for me to see what's going on there. So my total assets, the total assets I'm going to do in equals, and my only asset column is cash, so there we go. Okay? The next one, total liabilities. Well, total liabilities, I'm going to do equals, and my only liability there is D, is long-term loan payable. Now, C, revenues for the month. Okay, so revenues, let's do another. And we have service revenue, that's our only revenue. We're going to do that. Now, total liabilities and equity. Well, we're not there yet. Okay, so it says revenues. I skipped ahead. Remember how I said we were going to do a couple things back and forth? I just put the wrong number in. I put revenues in the wrong cell. So let's click down here. So revenues, we're going to do down here, service revenue. Expenses for the month. Well, we've got some several expenses. So I'm going to actually use another sum, and you can do this in several different ways, but I like to use sum when I can. So sum, I'm going to select sum again. And now it's going to, I want to use sum. So I want to point, see how I click the little up arrow? And I want advertising expense, automobile expense, interest expense, and miscellaneous expense. So that is what my expenses will be. Okay, net income for the month ending January 31st, put that in cell C91. So net income for the month. Net income for the month is going to be my revenues minus my expenses. So I'll just point to that. So I'm going to have revenues minus expenses. There we go. Okay, so that's net income. Now, equity. Now here we go back up to that equity column. That equity number. Now it gives us a hint. Equity will be common stock plus retained earnings plus net income minus dividends. So let's do that. So I'm going to put the formula in, and it tells me to take common stock. So common stock is right here, plus retained earnings, which is 0, plus net income. Well, we just calculated net income is down here. And then we're going to subtract dividends. Okay, so there we go. Now again, your numbers will be different from mine. So I'm going to hit enter. And then total liabilities and equity, which is going to be my liabilities plus my equity. Okay, so now part 4 says using your Excel worksheet in your answers to requirement 2, answer the following questions. Okay, so this is where you'll be able to answer these questions about what the accounting equation would be. Well, the accounting equation is assets equal liabilities plus equity. What accounts would be found on the balance sheet? Well, the balance sheet is the accounting equation, so it's assets, liabilities, and equity. What accounts would be found on the income statement? Income statement is revenues and expenses. Okay, D, did Pepper Food Delivery have a profitable month? Did it have a profitable month? So we're looking for positive net income. And we see that net income is positive because revenues are greater than expenses. E, what is the total amount that Pepper Food Delivery owes? Well, Pepper Food Delivery owes its liabilities, so we would take the liability total there. And finally, F, what was Pepper Food Delivery's largest total expense for January? So you would look through the 4 expenses here. You've got 4 expenses, total expenses in I, J, K, and L, and look for that largest expense out of those. Again, your numbers are going to be different from mine, but hopefully that gives you some idea of how to do this project.